In the fiery red sunsets of the Wild West, men in cowboy hats, pistols, and icy gazes became symbols of enduring masculinity. They rode horses across the desert, facing danger without flinching, the true machos of Hollywood. But what if behind that tough exterior lay untold secrets? Today we'll explore a surprising hidden side, legendary cowboy stars, those who once shaped the ideal image of the male lead, who in real life lived lives completely different from what the public believed. This truth is not only shocking, but it will also make you re-examine an entire golden age of cinema. Get ready, because this list might completely change the way you view the icons you once admired. If you find this topic interesting and want to discover more little-known secrets about Hollywood, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. There will be even more surprises coming soon. If there was one name Hollywood created as the perfect dream of 1950s masculine beauty, it was Tab Hunter. From the early years of his career, Hunter possessed everything the studios of the time wanted in a star: a handsome, Technicolor-style face, a bright smile, an athletic physique, and a friendly yet charming boy-next-door image. He quickly became a Hollywood youth icon, appearing in films like Battle Cry and Damn Yankees, while also venturing into music with chart-topping hits, making him one of the few stars to achieve success in both film and music. But behind that perfectly constructed image lay immense pressure from the studio system of the Golden Age. Hollywood at that time didn't just sell films, it also produced images. And for Tab Hunter, that image was that of an ideal man for female audiences, an icon tightly controlled from his appearance and roles to his personal life. For years he was forced to live under the scrutiny of the media and studios, where every aspect of his private life could affect his career. Only decades later did Tab Hunter publicly reveal his true self, admitting that he was gay in an era when it was almost unacceptable in Hollywood. This truth was no longer a rumored secret, but became an important part of his legacy story, a testament to what many stars of that time had to hide to survive in the harsh entertainment industry. However, Tab Hunter is not remembered only for his private secrets, but also for his enduring career and his ability to redefine himself over the decades. From a teen idol of the 1950s, he gradually transitioned to more mature roles, becoming a symbol of the changing way Hollywood viewed artists. Ultimately, he left behind the image of a star not only created by the studio, but also one who dared to live true to himself, even if that came later than a lifetime of glamour. Forrest Tucker was one of Hollywood's quintessential classic cowboy faces, tall, deep, resonant, and commanding presence from the very first appearance. In cowboy films or military roles, he was often portrayed as a tough, decisive man, a type of character that audiences at the time considered a symbol of masculinity and order. Off-screen, Tucker also maintained a vibrant and flamboyant public image, typical of a classic Hollywood star. Multiple marriages, relationships constantly scrutinized by the press, and a reputation as a womanizer who lived life to the fullest in the spotlight. The media of the time almost entirely contributed to shaping him as an undisputed symbol of masculinity, where his private life and public image were intertwined. However, behind that glamorous facade, there were always untold stories, not clear evidence, but whispers and vague rumors that circulated behind the scenes of Hollywood. Like many stars of his time, Tucker lived in a system where his personal image was sometimes more tightly controlled than his acting, and silence was often the safest option in the face of speculation. It is this contrast between the on-screen persona and the behind-the-scenes persona that makes the story of Forrest Tucker even more elusive over time. When he died in 1986, the public mainly remembered a resilient, versatile, and energetic actor. But like many classic Hollywood legends, there remains a void where private life, truth, and rumors intertwine, never truly resolved. Another figure often mentioned when discussing the charming masculinity of Hollywood's 1950s and 1960s is George Maharis. Maharis rose to global fame thanks to his role as Buzz Murdoch in the television series Route 66, where he and his co-stars portrayed free-spirited, strong men roaming the American highways. With his captivating looks, free-spirited demeanor, and distinctly modern masculinity, he quickly became an icon of the first generation of television actors, adored by young audiences. However, like many stars of his time, George Maharis's private life remained largely private. In a Hollywood environment that was very strict about artists' privacy, especially regarding sexual orientation, he chose to remain anonymous and avoid public attention. For years, the press and the public speculated about him, but Maharis never confirmed or elaborated on those stories. His career after Route 66 also experienced many ups and downs, with numerous unfinished projects and periods interrupted for various reasons. Nevertheless, he is remembered as an icon of the black-and-white television era, where the image of the man wandering on the highway became a part of American popular culture. George Maharis passed away in 2023. Ending a long life intertwined with both the glamour and the quiet moments behind the screen. His legacy is not just his roles, but also the image of a generation of stars who had to live on the blurred lines of fame, public expectations, and a private life that was never truly their own. There are stars who don't need to say much to make a lasting impression on Hollywood, and Randolph Scott is one such example. He wasn't the loud, flamboyant hero on screen. On the contrary, Scott built his reputation on almost absolute composure. In his westerns, the moment he stepped onto the screen, audiences felt that all the chaos could be controlled. But what made Randolph Scott even more interesting than his film career lay in the quietude behind the scenes. In a Hollywood that often likes to turn stars' private lives into gossip, Scott chose to keep everything almost completely private. He avoided media attention, offering no lengthy explanations or denials, simply allowing his image to exist exactly as audiences saw it on screen. This silence led to numerous rumors and speculations within Hollywood at the time. In particular, his long-standing close relationship with Cary Grant became a topic of discussion behind the scenes and in the entertainment press. The two even lived together for a period, but instead of offering a clear explanation, both chose to remain silent in the face of speculation, allowing everything to sink into the characteristic ambiguity of classic Hollywood. Despite the rumors, Randolph Scott's career remained strong and enduring to the end. He left Hollywood as an icon of westerns, while maintaining great respect from the public. And perhaps what makes him unforgettable is not just his indomitable cowboy roles, but the very mystery he carried with him, a void that Hollywood has never truly filled. Tyrone Power was one of Hollywood's most brilliant cinematic icons of the 1930s to 1950s, the kind of star whose mere appearance on screen was enough to transform the entire frame into a promise of adventure, romance, and glamour. With his distinctive handsome face, deep eyes, and a demeanor that was both elegant and powerful, Power was almost tailor-made for roles as knights, swordsmen, and classic heroes. Under the leadership of 20th Century Fox, he became one of the studio's most important leading men. From The Mark of Zorro to Blood and Sand, Tyrone Power didn't just play the lead role. He defined the ideal male protagonist of an era. Charming but not ostentatious, strong yet possessing a tragic inner life. The public loved him not just for his looks, but for the feeling he conveyed, a hero who was both relatable and distant. However, behind that glamour lay a personal life constantly under the pressure of fame and public expectations. Power went through multiple marriages and relationships closely scrutinized by the press, in a Hollywood environment that sought to control and shape the private lives of stars. Like many icons of his time, he was surrounded by numerous rumors and speculations, most of which were never definitively confirmed and remain shrouded in the ambiguity of classic Hollywood. Tyrone Power's life ended abruptly in 1958 at the height of his career, leaving a huge void in American cinema. He passed away not just as a great star, but as a part of Hollywood's golden age, where glamour, image, and private life were always intertwined, and sometimes the true self of a star was something audiences never fully saw. In the early years of classic Hollywood, Richard Cromwell was considered one of the most promising young faces on screen. With his boyish looks, gentle eyes, and somewhat sensitive demeanor, a stark contrast to the tough masculine image of the time, he quickly attracted the attention of major studios. Cromwell wasn't the muscle hero type, but rather a delicate, vulnerable character, a quality that made him stand out in a Hollywood that favored strength and ostentation. His career exploded in the late 1930s as Cromwell consistently appeared in major films and was expected to become a long-term star. However, like many young actors of the studio era, his image wasn't entirely under his own control. Studios molded him into safe roles, while his personal life was shrouded in the characteristic silence of Hollywood at the time, where the privacy of stars was often kept behind the scenes. It was in the space between his public image and his private life that Richard Cromwell became a name frequently appearing in speculative behind-the-scenes stories. Some later film history accounts and analyses mention him as belonging to a group of artists who lived discreetly in their private lives amidst a society and entertainment industry that was very strict about differences at the time. However, most of these details remain speculative and have never been officially confirmed, leaving his story with the characteristic ambiguity of classic Hollywood. After leaving the spotlight relatively early, Cromwell almost disappeared from the mainstream of cinema, leaving behind a short but noteworthy career. He died in 1960, quietly and without drama, but is still remembered as one of the distinctive faces of early Hollywood. And like many stars of his time, Richard Cromwell's story lies not only in what he did on screen, but also in the silence he left behind, where the public continues to question the true person behind the glamour. One of the most enigmatic and handsome figures of the early 20th century, possessing both the quintessential Hollywood masculinity and the most mysterious personal life, was Ramon Novarro. Born in Mexico and entering Hollywood during the silent film boom, Novarro quickly became a phenomenon. With his handsome face, deep eyes, and a demeanor that was both strong and romantic, he was considered one of the first Latin lovers of the big screen. His career peaked in 1925 with the film Ben-Hur, where Novarro embodied a heroic yet emotionally charged character, making him a leading star of the era. However, that glory came with immense pressure. Hollywood in the 1920s and 1930s was a world where the image of masculinity was constructed extremely rigidly, strong, charming, and standard in the way the public expected. In that context, many stars were forced to live two lives, one on screen and a completely different one in real life. According to many film history records, Novarro is said to have lived a very private life and belonged to the LGBTQ+ community, something almost impossible to openly acknowledge in his time. Social pressure and the film industry forced him to keep his true self hidden, completely separating his iconic image from his personal life. As Hollywood transitioned to the era of sound films, Novarro's career gradually stalled. Although he continued to participate in many projects, he no longer held the peak status he had during the Ben-Hur era. However, he is still remembered as an icon of classic beauty, a man who possessed both the glamour of Hollywood and the hidden depths of life that were never fully told. Novarro's tragedy doesn't just end with the fading of his fame, it concludes with a haunting death. On October 30th, 1968, Ramon Novarro was murdered at his Los Angeles home at the age of 69 while living a relatively secluded life. The investigation revealed that the Gauss brothers had broken in with the intention of robbing him, but the situation quickly spiraled out of control, leading to his tragic death. The case shocked Hollywood, not only because of its violence, but also because of the heartbreaking contrast between a once brilliant legend and his lonely end behind the spotlight. Ramon Novarro's story, therefore, is not just the journey of a movie star, but also a testament to an era where glory and tragedy often go hand in hand, and behind the illustrious macho stars sometimes lies a life kept hidden until the very end. In Hollywood history, few faces have combined the gentle, scholarly appearance with the iconic and haunting portrayal of one of cinema's most iconic characters like Anthony Perkins. Before becoming Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, 1960, Perkins was considered a promising young actor with a refined, sensitive, and somewhat introspective image. He appeared in many films of the 1950s with a style very different from the muscle-bound male leads of his time, gentler, more subtle, and sometimes carrying an indescribable sadness. This difference made him stand out, but also inadvertently shaped his later career path. The biggest turning point in his life came when he embodied Norman Bates, a role that completely changed how the public perceived him. This character was both fragile and terrifying, both pitiable and frightening, and Perkins portrayed it in a way that both captivated and unsettled the audience. The success of Psycho made him an icon of psychological thrillers, but it also inadvertently framed him in that very role for the rest of his life. Off-screen, Anthony Perkins lived a rather private life, especially in the context of Hollywood at that time, which was still heavily prejudiced against artists' personal lives. He married, built a family, and maintained a quiet image in front of the media. Even so, those around him still remember him as a sensitive, profound, and somewhat lonely person, an image that seems to reflect the introspective roles he often played. Anthony Perkins passed away in 1992, but his legacy lives on in cinema. He was not only Norman Bates, but also a testament to a unique style of acting where human vulnerability can become a classic haunting on screen. And like many stars of his time, his life was always marked by a blurry line between his public persona and his true self behind the spotlight. During the golden age of American television and westerns, Guy Madison was one of the quintessential classic Western heroes, tall, handsome, and possessing a smile that instantly instilled confidence in his integrity. Without much introduction, Madison appeared on screen as if born to ride horses, face danger, and maintain order in a chaotic world. His biggest career breakthrough came with the series The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, where Madison embodied an early television cowboy icon. In this role, he not only played a historical figure, but also helped shape the image of the ideal cowboy in the imagination of American audiences. Quick, concise, taciturn, but always acting at the right time and in the right way. That role propelled him to national television stardom. However, like many stars of his time, Guy Madison's stardom didn't last forever. As the cowboy genre changed and audience tastes shifted to new genres, he gradually withdrew from the center of Hollywood. While he continued to participate in numerous film and television projects in both America and Europe, his career never reached the peak of its earlier golden age. Nevertheless, Guy Madison is remembered as an important part of the era when American television began building its first legends. He wasn't the loud or controversial type of star, but rather the epitome of a true television cowboy, a figure who helped shape an entire generation of masculine image on the small screen, where simplicity was sometimes the greatest appeal. And that's the journey through the faces that shaped a golden age of Hollywood, where glamour, iconic figures, and behind-the-scenes stories intertwined, creating legends that were both brilliant and mysterious. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next stories about classic Hollywood and little-known secrets. And what do you think of the stars on today's list? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your perspective. See you in the next video.